Welcome back, folks, once again to WrestleRant. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and right here on WrestleRant, I give my in-depth analysis of all the pay-per-views that I watch on the WWE Network, and for the entire month of November, we're breaking down old installments of Survivor Series. So if you missed it, go back to Sunday where I uploaded my reviews of Survivor Series 1987 and 1988. Today we're talking about Survivor Series 1989. So this edition really wasn't that much better. I would say of the first three shows, this one was the worst. There really isn't all that much to analyze. A lot of these matches were very mediocre. I'll go over the results very quickly, but this will be a very short review, given the fact that none of these matches really stood out to me. I thought the other installments were a little bit better. 88 and 87 I thought were a lot more enjoyable. And this was another installment where every match in the card was all elimination, traditional Survivor Series tag team matches, 5-on-5, 4-on-4. This one was all 4-on-4. The other installments were 5-on-5. So because of that, this show really wasn't all that special or noteworthy. It wasn't a bad show, but it was kind of dull. So to open the show, we had the Dream Team, Dusty Rhodes, the Red Rooster, Tito Santana, and Brutus Beefcake taking on the team of the Big Boss Man, otherwise known as the Enforcers. Big Boss Man, Rick Martel, the Honky Tonk Man, and Bad News Brown. A fine match, and it was a decent opener for what it was, but it really didn't do anything for me personally. The sole survivors were Brutus Beefcake and Dusty Rhodes, so had the baby faces going over. Always great to see Dusty. He made the match a little fun. I never really cared for Brutus Beefcake. I've talked about that before in past reviews of SummerSlam, WrestleMania, whatever. But the match was good. As the opener, I thought it was a fine fit. A lot of these matches weren't really all that exciting. This one wasn't either for the most part, but I thought it was a decent match for what it was. So like I said, sole survivors were Dusty Rhodes and Brutus Beefcake. After that, we had another 4-on-4. Like I said, the entire card was elimination tag team matches, but this match pitted the 4x4s, not 4-on-4s. It was a 4-on-4, but the team was called the 4x4s. Jim Duggan, Bret Hart, Hercules, and Ronnie Garvin taking on the King's Court, consisting of the Canadian Earthquake, Dino Bravo, Greg Valentine, and Randy Savage. So you got the whole feud furthered between Randy Savage and Jim Duggan. Of course, the Battle of the Former Kings. Well, Jim Duggan was never a king, but he stole Savage's crown and he stole his gimmick for a little bit, and they were feuding. Randy Savage, much like Dusty Rhodes in the previous matchup, kind of piqued my interest in this contest. Otherwise, I didn't really care about it. We had Bret Hart, but other than that, it was kind of your standard tag team match. Really nothing all too exciting about it. Jim Duggan was the star of his team. Got last eliminated by countout to give the Randy Savage, the trio of Randy Savage, Canadian Earthquake, and Dino Bravo the victory. Like I talked about my Survivor Series 88 review, I always thought Dino Bravo, I don't know if I would call him underrated, but in watching these past shows, like these old shows from the 80s and early 90s, I think it might have been just late 80s, I thought the guy was good. I thought he was very entertaining in his role as a heel and also very good in the ring, so I'm surprised he didn't really do more in WWE than he did, and he does not get talked about more than he does currently in the company. But anyway, another fine match, nothing too exciting, but Randy Savage made it entertaining for what it was. So after that, we had the Hulkamaniacs taking on Demolition, Jake Roberts, and Hulk Hogan. The Hulkamaniacs, consisting of Hogan, Demolition, and Jake Roberts, taking on the four-man team of the $1 Million Team, Ted DiBiase, the Powers of Pain, and Zeus. So, of course, this was shortly removed from the release of No Holds Barred, and they were still trying to further that whole thing, and Zeus was a fucking monster. So he kind of went far a little bit, but he was taken out pretty quickly, and he was awful in the ring, so I'm surprised they kept him around as long as they did. But the thing about this was that I understood the whole thing at SummerSlam when he teamed with Savage to take on Brutus Beefcake and Hogan. I got that to promote the movie. It made sense. I get it. But everything else after that, though, why continue to promote it? Why continue keeping the feud alive? You know, this was in November. The movie came out in June, and I know that because I know it came out on my birthday of June 2nd in 89. So why would you bother continuing the feud past that point and keeping Zeus around? The guy was no good in the ring. He wasn't a viable heel, or at least I don't think he was. And they lost anyway. It was the team of Hogan, Demolition, and Roberts who won. Hogan, of course, was the sole survivor. But Hogan at this time was the WWE champion. I understood why Warrior was in the main event. I'll talk about that more in a few minutes. But it probably would have made more sense if they put this match in the main event over what we ended up getting. But I'll get to that when we get to it. So after that, we had the Rude Brood, Rick Rude, Mr. Perfect, and the fabulous Rougeau brothers taking on Rowdy's Roddies, Roddy Piper, the Bushwhackers, and Jimmy Snuka. A pretty fun match. I thought it was going to be better than it was. I enjoyed it for what it was, but I thought it was going to be better. Maybe I set my expectations too high, considering who was involved. I mean, you had Piper, Snuka, Rick Rude, Perfect, and then two good tag teams in the Bushwhackers and the Fabulous Rougeau brothers. So I was surprised the match really wasn't as exciting as I thought it was going to be. Again, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. The chemistry that Piper and Rude had was good. You didn't really see too much of them in the ring, which was kind of disappointing considering this whole match was centered around their feud between Piper and the Rude Brood, Rick Rude specifically. But what I thought was interesting, you had a video package. I mean, all throughout the night, you hear the team captains talking and hyping up the match, which was great and something that we should see more of nowadays and to make the matches feel more meaningful. But you had on Rick Rude's tights, of course, he always had something spray painted on his tights to reflect his opponent or whatever, or a title that he was holding at that time. He had a gravestone that said Rip Rowdy's Roddy's, which was, of course, very ominous considering that he had just passed away this year, Roddy Piper, that is. So that's kind of sucked to watch that. But yeah, the match, it was good. It could have been a lot better than it was. And I was surprised to see Rick Rude's team go over. Nothing wrong with it. Mr. Perfect was the sole survivor and not even Rick Rude, so that was kind of surprising. Put him over in a big way. Fun match, but it could have been a little bit more and left a little bit to be desired. So we get to the main event, the Ultimate Warriors. Ultimate Warrior, of course, the Rockers and Jim Neidhart taking on the four-man team of the Heenan family, Andre the Giant Haku, Arn Anderson, and Bobby Heenan, who wrestled himself. Didn't wrestle himself, but he was in the match himself, I guess is what I mean. The match was okay, but it definitely was not main event material. Like I said, I definitely would have preferred the Hulkamaniacs match over this one in the main event slot. That match wasn't too much better from an in-ring standpoint, but it featured the WWE Champion. Now, I understand this match was in here because the Ultimate Warrior they were on the verge of pushing him. He was going to be in the main event of WrestleMania the following year. It wasn't a bad match. And Warrior finally got his hands on Bobby Heenan, who was, I think, taken out pretty quickly, but he took out Andre the Giant, Haku, and Arn Anderson, and Warrior was the sole survivor. So I understood why they put in the main event to kind of give Warrior the spotlight before he would get the main event slot at WrestleMania the following year. But from an in-ring standpoint, from a match quality standpoint, it probably would have made more sense to put Hogan in there because that was kind of the main event feud going on at that time. But none of these matches were really all that special, especially compared to some of the other Survivor Series elimination tag team matches we had seen up to this point in 87 and 88. So on the whole, I thought it was an okay show. Certainly wasn't a bad show. There were far worse Survivor Series installments. But all these matches, I mean, there really wasn't one that stood out as being special. It was a fine viewing for what it was, but I wouldn't really recommend going back and watching it. There are far better Survivor Series shows from the late 80s and also in the 90s and 2000s. But yeah, I thought every match was kind of mediocre. They weren't bad. They weren't great. They were just kind of in the middle. Nothing too exciting. Not many feuds furthered, a few here and there, but on the whole, kind of a disappointing show. So I wouldn't really recommend that you go back and watch it. I thought 87 and 88 were far superior to this one, so be sure to check out those shows. My reviews of those shows already up here on the channel from Sunday. So also going up today, if you already haven't checked out your subscription feed, my reviews of Survivor Series 91 and 92, my review of Survivor Series 1990 is already up here on the channel from last year, if you want to check that out. But be sure to check out my other reviews today from Survivor Series 1991 and Survivor Series 1992. So as always, guys, be sure to follow me on Twitter at WrestleRant, on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.Jason.Matthews. Give the page an old thumbs up. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. All support is greatly appreciated. As always, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you right back here in my next video of my review of Survivor Series 1991. Till then, guys, take care.